Hello everyone, my name is Wim Winters and welcome to another practicing session with Beethoven again here at the Clavichord. We are going to play the Paisiello variations. All of this is in the framework, so to say, of the Beethoven project. That's the project that I'm heading for, where I'm, for the next 3 years, from September onwards, something like that, will be recording the entire solo works by Beethoven, 60 works over 22 CDs, and that's to be recorded in 60 sessions, actually 60 recording days, 18 sessions. So that's really exciting. And so in the preparation for that project, share with you as much as I can. And so these practicing sessions are part of that. So today's session is not live in case you are here while this is premiered. It's pre-recorded, and the reason for that is we are actually now Thursday, so the day that the video is premiered or this recording, but Anya and I are working day and night now to finish our application for a subsidy for the Flemish government, where we hopefully get a little bit of subsidy for this project and covering some costs for that huge project. So that needs, the deadline for that is tonight, actually tomorrow, but we have a deadline tonight for ourselves in case something really would happen. That's the reason why this session is not live but pre-recorded. So hope you have a great time here in the chat or in the replay by listening. And these variations are really particularly I like. I didn't know them, as I didn't know a lot of Beethoven variations. I played a lot of Mozart variations, not yet on the channel. Need to find time to do that, because Mozart and his variations are, I think, a little bit underserved in today's performance practice or recording, whatever how you want to call that. I mean, we should play a lot more Mozart variations because he's really the king of variation maker. But Beethoven, I frankly didn't expect him. Yeah, we know the large variations, C minor, one of the Diabelli variations, but in his early works, this is 1795, that he would reach that level of Mozart in an astonishing way. I didn't expect that, honestly. So also for me, this Beethoven project is a constant discovery of pieces that perhaps I wouldn't have played otherwise, because I could easily practice a Mozart variation right now. So these Paisiello variations, 1795, Paisiello, I don't know how to pronounce that name, was a famous opera composer. They knew each other, I think. Mozart and Paisiello knew each other, I guess. He played the clavichord. There is a famous, or not so famous, but there is a painting of Paisiello around 1790 sitting at the clavichord. So that instrument was really still very present in the study practicing rooms, even in the salons of that day. So it was an instrument with history, and so that's the reason why in the Beethoven project I include the clavichord as well. So these variations, these early ones, they will all go on the clavichord, and this instrument particularly is wonderful for that music. I finish my coffee and then we start playing. So we did one session before. It's about 2 weeks ago, I guess, and honestly, it was the last time I touched the clavichord. So that's an indicator also for me how well these daily practice or these practicing sessions are, because if it were not for these sessions that I record, I mean, with the piano now, I force myself to play the clavichord, and it's every time the same reaction. This instrument is so close to my heart. It's so direct. It's so expressive. And, you know, I've been talking about that we are now in a kind of bridge period where we have to prepare, Anya and I, a lot of projects and really work on the business, quote unquote, that authentic sound must become to make this sustainable, involving other musicians to practice with us, or to play with us, to record with us, to work with us. And so that requires a lot of time. So on the channel you see a little bit less standalone recordings, but there is a lot waiting, I can promise that. I'm not sitting still here behind these instruments. But that's for the near future. You will see a lot of changes over the coming months and this year. So without further ado, Paisiello. And so that's what I wanted to say is I didn't practice this. So this is partly practicing sight reading. We made the fingerings, practicing the fingerings, and just make the piece technically my own. And you know, that's this session about. Now finish my coffee. There we go. A major, the difficult key on an historical keyboard, certainly on the clavichord. No sounds of repeat this section, so that's really nice. Thank you, Beethoven. We don't have to think about it. Have you heard what Beethoven does and how this instrument responds to that? So he starts with a very simple bass, and then he adds one note. And I'm going to demonstrate that, but listen how this instrument suddenly doubles in volume. Doesn't happen on a modern piano. It doesn't even happen on a pianoforte. It happens on the clavichord. Suddenly, adding one note, boom, and you have double the impression of double the volume. I like it so much. This is a Beethoven that's very far from that 19th century image we created from the master. You know, always angry man. This is, I think, very close to who Beethoven was. Very gentle, misunderstood perhaps. Gentle, noble character, I think. So pleasant, full of humor. So let's just play it again. Tempo is allegretto. There's no metronome mark from Czerny. I don't have any. Lorenz probably has, but I haven't asked. But allegretto here in 2/4, it's just purely based on my instinct here. It's gentle. It's moving forward a little bit, but not too much. So it's in between andante and allegro. Allegro would have been a little bit faster perhaps, but it's very close to each other. So it's just a feeling that I'm, and we'll see how it works with the next variations. So here I have to read first again, because I want to follow the fingering very close. So all these articulation marks are Beethoven's. Accent. So Sozande on the F sharp. So that's an indicator for tempo. So to so it's a little bit this playing with counter accents. Okay, sforzando here. But not in the right hand. I think the effect would be, it's nice. He explicitly indicates it in the left hand, which normally, if you don't think about it, you would do. But it's. Now I add a little bit of quality to the staccato notes. He indicates staccato, but I wonder what if he perhaps he chooses to, indicate it's staccato literally means half of the value. But that, yeah, what's half of the value? So adding a little bit more quality in it by giving a little bit distinction between the staccato notes. So making one note a little bit more half of the value than the other, creating a kind of layer there, so to say. Let's try. But not this. But he indicates not a, nuts is not a slur. It's staccato. It gets a natural action. Chop, pop, 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 pop. It sounds nice actually here. And this clavichord is so responsive that just touching the first note gives enough on the instrument to sound. It's actually really hard to have all these shades and differences of accents and articulation. No? Nice. This is much better. Now you hear the right hand just moving on, but with the differentiation. So there is a difference in accentuation and articulation even. And every note has now its quality. It's not just staccato notes, it's a kind of cantabile staccato, I would say. It's a difficult thing here. But it's so nice when seeing these accents and seeing the articulation indications. You could only wish that those composers would have indicated more like this. But yeah, on the other hand, it's nice to give some freedom and some, that we have to use some fantasy also. Oops. You see, the division of the weight on the clavichord, how important. So light notes, not moving your wrist is impossible. Yeah, this is okay, but let's try to do it wrong. It's difficult for me. left hand. I need the bass note a little bit more pronounced, not too much, but more present than it was now. A little bit more. What does the tempo with the beginning? So I played the first variation slower than the beginning. I don't know if I keep that tempo. Sometimes you need to be below the tempo you actually want to have at the end to make sure that you get all the different things right and see all the things. So not saying that this first variation is my final tempo. That's actually what I want to say. So because this might be, it's possible. We'll see how that develops. So then variation 2, 16th notes with the runs in the right hand. Let's see how this goes. First fingering check. One. Okay, no, it's C. Okay. It's a nice line. So articulation, yeah, what shall we do? And we can play it like this. Or a little bit more 18th century like. I like that actually more. Tempo, what do you da 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 da. Trying to experiment a little bit with accentuation by holding the notes a little bit long, but that needs to develop that. Now we have to play 6 notes in one chord. So 6, we call that in Dutch. I forgot the name in Dutch. Let's read. Isn't that nice? Chum, dee, pa 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 pum, dee, dum, dee, pa 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 pum, dee, dum. So now it's clearly that's typical of that style. I see that a lot. Maybe that changes later, but the upbeat, so the E, is not connected with the first note of the first bar. So we typically would have the tendency to hum, but I think they want hum, so to make an articulation gap there. So piano beginning. Yeah, piano and the right hand certainly. I think also the left hand, but the left hand will be prominent by nature. Here the instrument is very strong here, and by nature of the faster note value. So we don't panic on an instrument like that by giving a little bit more dynamics or giving the left hand or the right hand a little bit more. If you play this on a modern piano, you always have to take care of that because the instrument has a different balance than an early keyboard. So that's the great thing by playing this music on earlier keyboards, regardless of what you like. I mean, I'm not opposed to performances on Steinways at all. I think that's even, in my mind, it's even ridiculous to be against something a musician does by nature of playing it on an instrument you typically not would play it yourself, because it can be a very beautiful performance. It's just a tool, and it's the perspective that you want to take, you know. Some people are, you know, and also the history that you have. I mean, I happen to run into some, we live here in Belgium, and a wonderful area for historical informed performance practices. Whatever perspective they take, it doesn't matter. A lot of musicians are dealing with this kind of stuff. So naturally I was kind of injected with that virus, certainly going to Amsterdam, being an organist. But if you don't happen to follow that path, or that's just not the environment where you grow up, then it's so logical that you take another instrument. And so the discussion, but that's just, I'm digressing here. In the hip world, sometimes you see, well, why are you playing that? Even get some questions for Clementi sonatas playing on that Frenzel piano. It's 40 years later than it was composed. Yeah, I know. I don't have the money to have 5 different pianofortes or 6 or 7. I know, but it doesn't mean that you cannot share that beauty. I mean, all of that. But if you play it on an instrument very close to what the composer had in mind or had available in those days, you don't have to panic that much or to do as much on creating the dynamics right. You can just, in the piano, I mean the soft range, just give a little bit more and it will be naturally good. As in this case with these 6 notes with the fast notes. Minore. Okay. Whoa. 1795. Second finger here. Try it again. That's quite some nice modulations. Okay. But it's unbelievable how inventive this guy was back then, and his entire life actually. Especially this bridge is so nice. He continues that chromaticism there. Stuck to his ears probably. So love that. Wow. Maggiore. Nice. Pianissimo, he writes. Okay, let's try to do that. Sometimes there is this versandelen to make, I think, a really big accent, because pianissimos versandelen. Let's just try that to play really soft. It's like a horse that you see passing by from very far distance. So he gives these bows with dots. What's the name in English? Tom, but on repeated notes, which is strange. And perhaps he wants to indicate, well, further it's here. Not really legato, something between staccato and legato. So still this chon chon chon, but also there we will have to try to make the differentiation there, giving the accents while staying really in that same atmosphere of pianissimo and on the background. It's difficult. So it requires very subtle divisions of the weight of the arm that goes in the keys and right away back out of the key. But you know, in the clavichord you cannot throw the tangent like on the piano. You need to make the sound. So, and you do that with your ears. So it's not something you consciously control. It's not possible. Nice, eh? That's, I think, back the original tempo that we had for the first variations. The quality of sound in the left hand should be really, and especially here, really good. Hear the difference with the previous time? I was a little bit hesitant to include all the sonatas in the Beethoven project recordings of you. We'll make some videos on that soon. To include, and insert all these variations with around the, the sonatas and the more known works. But I'm so happy that I made the decision because this is so nice music. Here I have to look on the fingering first, variation 6, 16th notes right hand, left hand. So. And also I want to avoid that my fingers just grab a note that harmonically feels okay. And then, once it sounds okay, you keep repeating that error without seeing it. So that's dangerous. We'll have sound checks and also score checks, of course, in the Beethoven project by people who will give the final checks before make the final decision and with the score before the recordings go to the pressing plant. So we can always make quick adjustments if necessary, and that happens. So misreading. That's the reason why I'm be a little bit careful the first time I play these variations now again. So the melody needs to come out here, and the clavichord is the perfect instrument for that. Fortissimo, forte. Piano. This needs a little bit more expression in the right hand, so there's more of a dialogue here. Okay. Gotcha. So. Just try it again. Nice, maybe a little bit faster then. We'll check. That's not time to check the tempo. Double check the tempi throughout the variations. I start to do that as you have noticed, but each variation should get its own chance to develop and to bring the whole in balance. Typically for these variations, it's not known if for sure if you have to, must play every variation in the same tempo, but there are some variations, I've mentioned that before, where, for instance, Czerny writes for the Opus 35 is, I'll come with that later because I've practiced that already. There he says, well, every variation has its own tempo, so he didn't give metronome marks for that reason, for that piece. But overall, also in the other variations that he did metronomize and also modulus, it is more or less the practice to, if it's possible, and of course if you don't go to an adagio or another tempo indication, to try to create this unity by giving each variation a similar tempo. Now, having said that, it works wonderful sometimes. If you start, for instance, in 72, I just make up something, and then you go to 76, and then you go a little bit back, a little bit, around that, because you create this constant shades then. And by the nature of these tempi, because if you don't know this piece, you might say that's a very normal tempo. That's the thing with unknown pieces. People would freak out if we take the tempi that we know for the known pieces, because it's like this, really, it's an out of proportion, and these are actually showcase pieces to make the pianist or the keyboard player kind of shine, technically. But that is a side remark. So time will come for these variations to become a unity. So the last variation is a minuet. We didn't include that last time in the practicing session. So I've made my fingerings here. I just tried. These last variation is also really great. There's some beautiful effects. It's longer. So just try it. Tempo di minuetto. Oh, beautiful. How cool is this to you? Benissimo. It's difficult. Maybe this works better, which you normally wouldn't do. Try it again. Here also, I don't know if you can see that, probably not, but here on this 16th run, one bow, end of the bow. So sometimes the bow ends on the first note of the group of 4 16ths, and sometimes just before, right before the bar stroke. And that's a very important passage, because here he indicates probably not only the group, the motive, but also the fact that he wants to have this legato very cantabile, which, remember what we were thinking about at the beginning, whether we should maybe play it a little bit more articulated. I think that's right, because otherwise, if the overall texture or overall main way of playing was legato, There's no need to indicate that here. This run reminds me very much at the end of the A major sonata. I can't memorize it now because this piece is in my head, but there you have this articulation. So, maybe you can apply it as well as here, it didn't indicate, but yeah, it was something he did. And if you do that, so give a lot of attention to such a run and don't simply run it as, it's just a bridge passage. What happens then is that this passage here, this mode, is feels as a kind of closure of that sentence, of what someone else was saying on stage. So, wonderful music, really wonderful music, and honestly, I could not imagine one reason why not playing this on a clavichord. I mean, even with an earlier pianoforte, I wouldn't see a reason. If you are used to play on clavichord, you know what I'm talking about. But if you're not, this sounds really surprising with the piano like that. You're next to me. The clavichord gives such a direct connection to what you do. You just tinkle an accent and it is there. I mean, you need to overcome the technical difficulties, but once you are there where the ear and the idea just connects to the instrument without trouble, mechanical trouble to realize that. So that's a one-to-one situation. Giving an accent then, or giving another kind of color to the sound, making it a little bit more cantabile, a little bit less in between. All these shades are on the pianoforte really hard, if not impossible. And you can see it's interesting, so interesting for me to be on this journey, recording everything of Beethoven and so practicing everything and thinking about it and having the possibilities of experimenting here. It's so interesting to see how Beethoven actually, and in fact you could say the same from Mozart at the end of his life. Later sonatas, they work still on the clavichord, where actually you could say, well, Haydn as well, his last sonata, and it works on the clavichord, great, but certainly starting like this, it's on the pianoforte of those days. Earlier than that, gives a little bit more, but other than that, you can see that Beethoven goes into the atmosphere of the pianoforte, and that he later, and that he really takes the sound and the possibilities of that instrument. But this bridge period, it didn't happen overnight, of course, and certainly not with these variations. 1795, that's later than his Opus 2 sonata, so the one with F minor. And then you have the second one. He did that, and then So this group of three, this is in this actually the same period, the 1795. I think the sonatas are probably 1795 as well, so probably it was made a little bit earlier. So it's you cannot imagine that. These sonatas are the A major, I mean, the F minor, the C major, this one. There are passages in the last part, like where you have this third in the last part and the C major one. That's on the clavichord really hard, because there you get these the strings, the tangents hitting the string so hard, you get this natural, I mean, they jump back, and the string tension is not over yet when you have to use those strings again. So it's difficult. So there you can see that it's pianoforte music already, but here not. So there are two tracks, which is so amazing to see. And it's, yeah, I'm so lucky though. I'm so happy to have included those variations. Really happy to know that music, and I hope for you the same. So let me check here the clock. I have no idea how long we are actually recording. It doesn't matter. It was a great session for me, really. Again, all these sessions are great for me. I was thinking honestly just to skip this one, because again, we have so much work to do. It's almost finished our application, but yeah, finishing everything, double checking. So what will happen next today, while you're watching this, if you watch this live during the premiere, I will be sitting at the computer together. Maybe we'll say hello in the chat, and then you'll know that. But we have to finish the application. There's so much to do, and it's very important. All the figures needs to fit, you know, everything. Luckily, I'm as a bookkeeper. But I was thinking, well, this is way too important. Let's not practice today. But then I was thinking, what am I doing? That's the reason why I have this project set up. So I could use an ugly word, but starting with an F, U numbers, I just practiced today, and I'm so happy that I did. And you know what? It's still 10:15 now a.m. So the whole day is for us. So it's just 1 hour. If you just take 1 hour every day to do something very focused, what can you achieve in a month and in a year? So, off topic a little bit. So, thank you for being here. Thank you for subscribing. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, I cannot imagine that you haven't subscribed yet and still are here watching. But if that's the case, hit that subscribe button. YouTube changed its policy to notification, even when you hit the bell now, with explicit demand for the notification for every video and live stream. Apparently YouTube is not doing that anymore. It's hard to imagine why. There's a lot of protest amongst even bigger YouTubers, because if you take the action of subscribing and hitting the bell notification, it's none of YouTube's business, because you demands especially to be notified. But I also hear that from several of you that you weren't notified to YouTube. And it happens when you have a period of even 2 weeks that you didn't watch any of my videos, which of course it's not, I cannot imagine you would skip 2 weeks of my videos. But if that would happen, I mean, every once in a while in a lifetime, you know, just kidding. But then YouTube thinks, oh well, maybe this channel is not of your interest, so let's skip the notifications. I think it's working like that. So I try to announce them on my channel as much as I can. And other than that, it's Monday 5 p.m, Thursday 8:30 p.m. as I try to hit every time the live stream or the recorded session. Anyway, thank you for subscribing, watching, supporting the channel, also through Patreon, and see each other soon again. Bye.